If you guys are here, then we might as well begin. How's it going, everybody? Nice to see ya. Welcome to the legit weekend live stream, the Abominable Kitty edition. I thought of many iterations of that title, and none of them were appropriate. So we've got the coffee. Hello Amanda, hello Death by Touch, Mr. Fluger, Emilio, Ricky, Grant, Besade Knight, Linguistically Oversight, Danny. Nice to see you all. Sorry if I missed anybody. Hello Danny. I don't actually go by the glue stick, but it's fine. People have started calling me the glue stick, I don't care. I'm good. It is good. It is a good weekend. It has been a good weekend, in so much as I track time by days of the week these days. Hey Thomas. Abominable Kitty. Yeah, that's right. So this is kind of to represent that we're in a cold new world, especially for the Europeans who unfortunately don't get any spicy memes, with any hot memes with the rest of us. Although, who knows how it's going to shape up really. Any fun ideas for your Underdark campaign session? Oh, well, yes, definitely. So the Underdark is full of phase-rest energy, which is this, you get that in the purple glowing crystals and things like that. And the Underdark is hot, it's not cold. It's quite warm down underneath the ground. So that's the reason why you have these scantily clad drow priestesses and things like that, because, yeah. And myconid fungus and things. Everything's sweaty and hot and humid down in the Underdark. So that's something that you can, like environmental effects. And also sometimes it gets, if the humidity gets very high, it gets very hard to breathe. Yeah, so you can represent that as an exhaustion in certain environments. Hey Jaden. Hey Aaron. Hey, it's nice to see you, Aaron. Yeah, I'm glad, welcome to the live streams. It's like half of what I do these days. Anything 10-year jaded players wouldn't expect? They probably wouldn't expect you to pull out like a beholder almost immediately upon it going underground. That's one thing. Also, you could give them things like other dimensional effects, like they walk through an area of the Underdark which has been infected by abyssal energy, for instance, because of the recent like Rage of Demons storyline. There's probably an abundance of demonic energy just floating around in the Underdark that's going to take a very long time to dissipate. Or of course Far Realm stuff. So Far Realm stuff can take it on both physical mutations of the environment and also mental mutations of the creatures, and also psychic effects, which can have a widespread sort of effect. So you may have characters who literally feel like they're in a dream, and you can play with the players' minds, and that it seems like they're going through a dream sequence, like they're going to wake up and it's all going to be a dream, but in actual fact it's not. It's just a psychic effect of a Far Realm incursion. Oh yeah, the red dragon, my baby. I hear these are worth quite a bit of money now, like $600 or something. Kind of ridiculous. I wouldn't part with it for the world though, because yeah, it's very hard to get hold of them these days. It's kind of funny actually. I had moving out of this place. I had the real estate agent who was bringing around people to look at the place, you know, for renting it after I go. Because I'm cool like that, I'll just let them walk through. And there was a couple who were obviously from somewhere in Asia who were looking at the dragon on the wall and the red dragon here. And I was like, I had a book open of dragons and I was like editing some audio and stuff, and they're like, ooh. It's kind of funny. I wonder if they thought that was an auspicious sign. Yeah, an intelligent slime that takes control of one of the players and puppets them. That's a great idea. Just a reminder, as always, I like to get this out of the way at the start of the stream. This is a monetized channel, so you can make super chat donations to help me out. And also, if you want your comment to, like if I keep missing your comment, that's a good way of getting it popped up, because the super chat stays on my screen for a while so I can see it. Otherwise, things start to flow past when I get like 70 odd people in here chatting. Exactly, Grant. Anything cool in my games recently? They are currently in a mine that is beset with abominations, with aberrations. So I had a classic adventure the other day. They're currently like level 8 or 9. I think they're level 9 now. I want them to get to level 10 before the end of the campaign, because the campaign has to end by the end of this month when I leave town, because we're starting an Eberron campaign online via like me phoning in remotely, to continue on with our association. But in this particular one, I wanted to hit quite a few of the milestone monsters, the classic monsters of D&D. And in this case, they got into a fight with some chokers who really quickly realized they were way outclassed by these high-level players. There just wasn't any way to logically make a huge horde of chokers arrive. It just didn't make any sense for chokers to do that. So the chokers were just like a delay to let them know that there was aberrations around. And then they got into a fight with a beholder. It was completely avoidable. The kobold guide, which is the new player in our group, was saying, look, we go this way. That side door it's a detour. We don't have to go that way at all. And they're like, well, yeah, but it's a door. So they open the door because that's what they do. And there was a beholder in the room that had no air in it. Well, it had air in it, but just not enough oxygen to breathe properly. So yeah, that was quite an intense fight, and I can see why beholders are like, if it wasn't anything other than a close confines and things, if the beholder had more of an edge in the environment that it was in, it would have been a devastating fight. Those things are quite potent, and the challenge rating was sufficient to hurt them quite a bit. Caves and sewers are good stuff and close enough to caves. Yeah. Favorite CR12 encounter? Yeah, well, the Beholder encounter is up there for sure. Of course, most Beholder encounters, you add other stuff into it as well. They have minions and underlings and things. This particular encounter was just the Beholder in an area of its lair that it thought was quite safe and secure. Nobody had ever come through that door in years and years and years. And it didn't expect anybody to barge in through, because the door basically disintegrated as soon as the player characters applied any pressure to it, because it was very old. And there was a magical anvil in the middle of the room, which the dwarves that built the mine used and a wild magic effect went off when they tried putting the magical anvil into a bag of holding. And the net result was that it doubled the value of all of the precious metals that were in the packs of the person who was putting them into. And it turns out that person was the one who was hoarding all of the treasure for the entire group. So they are now ridiculously wealthy. So these things happen. I'm a big lover of like random roll tables and just crazy stuff happening according to what the dice do in my games. I really like that. So I like unpredictable stuff happening in my games as well. Fluff, the god of poodles. And yeah, that's true. That's true. Linguistic oversight. Most player characters are worse than the worst stereotypes of kinders. Yeah, if it's there, they'll steal it. Sages of Candlekeep. Good. I actually do have a group. It's like a role-playing group on Facebook called the Sages of Candlekeep. So the idea is like, there is another group which is, I think it's Scribes of Candlekeep, but if you look for Sages of Candlekeep, it's a private group, but if anybody wants, they can message me and I'll invite them, and it's a role-playing group. So essentially you role-play a character who's at Candlekeep as a sage or an adventurer or somebody who's looking for information. So it's a place that you can role-play being in Forgotten Realms. I thought that's certainly interesting to me. I like that sort of roleplay on Facebook. So the next fight that they got into, almost immediately after the Beholder fight, they went down into a chamber, and there was haggy stuff going on. So there was a cauldron, there was all sorts of fetishes and voodoo dolls and stuff. There was herbs and icky things hanging from the ceilings and the walls. There was a cooking pit with human bones and things, that were humanoid bones. It was actually goblin bones nearby, and yeah, they could hear something breathing, and then they saw these fingers coming around the side of the wall doing the whole spider finger thing. and they got into a fight with the hag. And the hag, realizing that it was way outclassed in this particular encounter, cast fog and fogged out the entire room. So the only light sources around, and it sort of made a lurid green glow in the entire room, was from the magical green flame underneath the cauldron. Green flame. So yeah, that was a good fight. Every time you watch one of my videos, you want coffee afterwards. Yeah, I should get sponsored by a coffee manufacturer, honestly. Zone off. That's a loaded question. And a specific one. I think, well, it would be rare, I suppose, as rare in D&D as it is anywhere else. The tricky thing is that corpses do walk around in the Forgotten Realms occasionally, or other places. So I suppose maybe there's some justification for it. I don't know. Tricky question though. Unfortunately, I can't even talk about that out loud probably without getting this video flagged. Danny, can a tiefling paladin have their soul claimed by a good god, or are they bound to the abyss or the nine hells? No, they're not bound to the abyss or the nine hells. It's really just, you know, it's not just what they are. It's their personality, it's their mind which goes to the afterlife. So they may manifest in in Celestia as a non-tiefling, as a petitioner of a different race entirely. So they might manifest in the celestial realms as a very human-looking tiefling, like a human with small horns, but they don't look demonic or devilish. So they may actually change physically to fit more what their personality was in life. Polymorph squirrels. Oh well, I mean, yeah, necromancy is kind of weird. It's something that we don't have any familiarity with in real life, so we look upon it with extreme distaste. But if you're in Eberron, for instance, there's areas where necromancy is quite commonplace. One of the nations of Eberron. By the way, you should definitely check out Jordan, the Forgotten Realms. He's a Forgotten Realms expert as well, but he also has done a Nations of Corvair video recently, so you should definitely go and check that out. I haven't watched it myself yet, but I was going to make a video on that pretty soon. So I'm going to be doing a version as well without watching his first, so I'm not biased by what he said. But his videos are very good for like a brief sort of overview of things. He doesn't do the very long format. Except for his like Saturday morning D&D shows. It's a podcast of wonder, Mr. Fluger, the podcast of wonder. There's only one so far. We've got another one recorded, which I've got to edit yet. And yeah, I'm got to get into the swing of releasing the podcast in a regular sort of fashion as well. But yeah, that's a go. That's happening. And you'll see it on all sorts of different platforms. I use a website called Anchor, which essentially automates the process of uploading it to different, like you just basically make the podcast, do the graphics and the audio and everything for it, give it a description, give it all the tags and stuff, upload it to Anchor, and then Anchor submits it to all these different places that people get their podcasts from. So, which is really handy for somebody who doesn't know the first thing about RSS feeds and stuff like that, because I'm not a podcast listener myself generally. Puff the Magic Dragonborn. Drongborn? You'd like to go on record and say that the most broken spell in Dungeons & Dragons is Polymorph Inanimate Object. Okay. Are you going to do a homebrew monster video? Yes. I do them on a fairly regular basis, actually. Not that many. You'll get like 2 or 3 of them a year from me, pretty much. And I always do one on Halloween. Also, rare and unusual monsters from other things, other sources as I go through. Like, for instance, I was just looking at the 3.5 edition Draconomicon this morning, which is like this 270-page book all about dragons. It's one of the best dragon books ever published. And because I'm looking up the Fiendish Dragons, so that's the next dragon video that I'm going to be producing. Hey, Jacob. You got a Lizardman Druid going on campaign. I picked Circle of the Moon for better wild shape. I'm wondering about some dinos that are around CR1 that would be a good for wild shaping. Yeah, there's not a lot. There's probably a few CR1 dinosaurs. Let's see. What did we have? We had some in. Did we have some in Morton? We had some in Volos. I don't know. Have you got access to all of the books? Oh, good. Yeah, I really like the Delicious Pink Ooze. Deck of Many Things, yeah, definitely. Vampire Beholder. There are vampire dragons in the Draconomicon, actually. Yeah, tiny raptors. Tiny raptors are pretty good. And, you know, herbivorous dinos that don't really bother anybody. Oh, that's a hefty load of books. Waller's Guide. Dinosaurs. 139. Oh, they got them listed separately. Yeah, all the different types of beholders are really cool. I love the variety in beholders. It's one of my favorite, absolute favorite D&D monsters. It's a reason why it's a classic. Somebody asked us if I'd made a video on the Devourer before. I haven't made a video on the Devourer, so I plan on doing that soon. So Dimetrodon is a challenge rating quarter, so you can definitely play one of those. That's a medium beast. You've got a bite attack, 9 piercing damage. The Deinonychus is a medium beast. That's a challenge rating 1. It's got a pounce attack, 20-foot leap. Hits with its bite and 2 claws. 6 piercing damage for the bite, 6 for the slashing damage for the claws. So that's a good one. Hadrosaurus is a quarter challenge rating. As is the Velociraptor. That's a quarter challenge rating. So you can definitely wild shape into a Velociraptor. They've got 10 hit points, armor class of 13, speed of 30 feet. They have the pack tactic feature, and they've got a bite and claw. So they're pretty good. You'd think they'd be faster, actually, Velociraptor, but no, guess not. Yeah, Deathkiss Beholders are cool. As is the Eye of the Deep Beholder, for sure. So I hope everybody's doing okay with the weather over in the States at the moment. There's a lot of hurricanes and things which have affected everybody quite badly over the weekend. So I hope everybody's doing okay. Could a death kiss become undead though? Yep. Sure. You're a vampire shadow Dracolich. Then I guess I call you boss. Oh, that's good. Killed to death. Oh, you killed one with bows. Yeah. Nature is scary. All that energy. Yeah, it's funny actually. There's rain in some places and not in others, but otherwise it's like pretty ferocious winds. China is getting hit pretty nastily with a massive. In the South China Sea, there's a huge. I'm just scrolling around my map of the world here. There is a huge cyclone. I think that's the one that ravaged Japan. Well, it's hitting the Chinese coast right now. So I hope everybody's doing okay over there, if anybody's watching. The biblical behemoth, right. So it's not actually, well, it's not actually a dinosaur, is it? Because I suppose you could use the stats for a brontosaurus for the behemoth. Mixed with a little bit of Tarrasque in there, perhaps. Wow. Fire in British Columbia. Cyclones elsewhere. Crikey. You guys need to work it out, whether it's rain or fire. Meanwhile, here in New Zealand, I've got petals from my magnolia tree raining down outside my window. It's a heading straight into spring. It's lovely. I was sunbathing yesterday. It was gorgeous. I was sunbathing out on the porch, reading D&D books and surfing for memes on my tablet. Just living the life, drinking coffee. Behemoth is Godzilla's grandpa. Godzilla! Have I ever used a beholder with cyclopism when only one eye is formed at birth? You mean it's got no eye stalks, just one eye? Is that what you're saying? Well, interesting. In the like unicorn, for instance, they're rhinos, so they're mentioned in the. I think they're mentioned in the Bible or something like that. Yeah. So they knew of things in the past, and how the Chinese thought that giraffes were Kirin. It's kind of funny. Yes, envy the life for sure. Bard memes are the best. Actually, since I've just did that video on the sorcerer, has anybody got any questions about sorcerers? There's also the giant soul sorcerer that I missed. That was one of the unearthed arcana articles as well. The giant soul beholder sorcerers. So I was a bit miffed about that. I just saw that after I'd posted that video. And the next one that I think I will do would be carrying on with the arcane classes. Would be Bard, just to finish them off. And then maybe get into like cleric and stuff like that, and then get into the martial classes after that. Video on the spawn of Tiamat, I'd love to. Yep. There's a lot of spawn of Tiamat. Resist the sunbathing. I got quite a bit of sun yesterday. Springtime sunshine in New Zealand is not so harsh, so I can take a good, couple of hours of that. Hey, Justin, thank you. Super chat, everybody. That's what it looks like. A beholder who replaced his main eye with the eye of Vecna. Wow. Nice to see you too. Dovahkiin. Been a long time. Yeah, it has been a long time. Dragonboard Wizard ran out of internet for a while and glad to see you're still doing your stuff. Oh, absolutely. Nothing will stop me. On dire animals. Yeah, I've had a couple of requests to do dire. That may have actually been you requesting twice. But yeah, dire animals. How natural armor doesn't stack with worn armor. Yeah, I got a comment from somebody where it seemed like I was implying that the sorcerer's draconic armor, natural armor, stacks with their armor that they wear. I wasn't. I was just saying it's not negated. It's not negated by wearing armor. You just take whatever's highest. You don't stack the two. But I didn't express myself very well. because I was thinking ahead in the script where I was talking about the stone skin armor of the stone soul, the stone sorcerer. So in other game systems, armor classes handled somewhat differently, and my favorite has to be Palladium, Palladium Fantasy, or Palladium's SDC system, where essentially you have a natural armor class. Your natural armor class is your base armor class. So with a human that would be 10, and if you have natural armor, then it increases from 10 to like 13 or so. And then you have armor that is worn, and the armor has got hit points of its own, right? So you've got two types of damage. You've got hit points, which is your Constitution plus 1d6 per level or whatever, and then you've got STC, which is over top of that, which is like your endurance, your ability to avoid damage. So this is, they represent it in the game text as your John Wayne damage. So you take a bullet to the shoulder, but it's all right. It's just a flesh wound and you carry on. You're not really bleeding to death. You don't need hospital or treatment or anything. Hey, Ricky, thank you. So in Dungeons and Dragons, obviously, we just have you either hit or you miss. So if you miss, you don't do any damage at all to somebody. What's kind of implied in the rules and implied with the representation of hit points is hit points isn't lethal damage. It's your endurance, it's your ability to take nicks and scratches and things. But once somebody actually plunges a sword into you, that's where you're at 0 hit points and you're making death saving throws, because nobody gets better at getting stabbed. A draconian, hey Reclaimer, thank you. A draconian mount for a goblin. What's most likely? That would be one of the forms of drakes. Probably something like a spitting drake, or yeah, normally they're on wargs or wolves, but you could probably wrangle a drake of some kind. Like a guard drake would be suitable for goblinoids. Yeah. That's the you find them in 4th edition. There's probably some in 3.5 edition as well. Halfling paladin with a giant space hamster as a mount. You would get lost. They're huge, giant space hamsters. An alehouse drake wearing a belt of growth. That's interesting. We've actually got an alehouse drake in Tome of Foes, or Tome of Beasts, I should say. What was I talking about? I got distracted by that super chat. Oh yeah, okay, so armor class. So in Palladium, your armor has hit points as well. So when you get hit, you either, and you roll, let's say you're rolling, you've got an armor class of 18, you've got a natural armor class of 13. The armor is, say, plate mail, and it's got 80 hit points. The armor itself has got 80 hit points. And then you've got 20 hit points or whatever, and then you've got 30, you've got 30, we'll just stick with one damage type. So you roll a hit, you roll above the armor class, and you hit the armor. Or you roll above, how does it work? So you roll above, if you bypass the armor, you hit the person inside, and so you start doing a damage against them. But if you hit the armor, that's it. If you hit the armor, you damage the armor and take hit points off that. So the armor gets damaged and gets ruined. And once the armor's hit points are gone, the armor is ruined and useless and no longer provides protection. And then, of course, you're stuck with your natural armor class. So yeah. So you can have situations where you roll to hit somebody in the armor, and you roll beyond the armor, but you miss because you've deflected off their natural armor class. So the two would actually kind of stack in a way. Yeah, so you can definitely have more complicated, more realistic forms of armor and damage dealing in your role-playing game, but D&D is very simplistic in that regard, and there's limitations with what you can do with it narratively, logistically. The king's advisor is always evil. Probably. Yeah, roll above the armor class, you hit the person. Roll below the armor class, you hit the armor. So you could have armor class which is actually below your natural armor class. So You roll above a 12, you get past the armor, which is just like leather hide or whatever. You hit the person, but the person's got a natural armor class of 14. So you get deflected by the natural armor. You roll 15 or higher, you actually get past both, and you do damage to the person directly. So you can do it that way. You could homebrew that if you wanted to. Sorry, I missed a question there. Having a set of living armor would potentially be a good idea. Yeah, armor that can heal. Any advice to help urge my 3.5 players into being a wizard is worth it? They just want to be sorcerers. Well, wizards can acquire spells whenever. So you can hand out, like if you have somebody who's an NPC adventuring along with your party, then your sorcerers are learning their set number of spells per level, which they just intuitively gain. Whereas the NPC could pick up a spell book and all of a sudden have twice as many spells as they do. Because he just flips through it and goes, ah, now I know how to do Colour Spray. Now I know how to do Poison Cloud. I've got spells that I don't know how to use yet. I've got ones that I can perform as a ritual, all this sort of stuff. And so they would see the diversity of what this wizard can do. And also the fact that if they go actively looking for spells in the game, they can acquire a lot more spells than they would otherwise just by going up a level and effectively getting trained back at home base sort of thing. The tricky thing with wizards is you can tie them a lot more into the background of your story by having places that they go that they're guaranteed to get spells. See, sorcerers aren't so much inclined to go and find spells. What they're more inclined to do is find things which give them personal boosts to their charisma or their constitution to increase their physical personal power, because they are living conduits of magical energy. That logic doesn't faze them. Well, fuck them. I don't know. Let them play what they want, really. Yeah, so crits can damage the armor quite dramatically. Yeah, you could also have it so that sorcerers enter areas where the magic just doesn't work properly, or you could enter into areas where phase-rest energy actually disrupts the magic that they produce, and because they're a sorcerer and their magic is internal, it literally disrupts them. So they could become non-magical beings, which could be quite distressful for somebody who's used to magic flowing through them all the time. Wizards, of course, would just sense it as an outside force. Sorcerers, on the other hand, would be personally affected by it. Hey Jordan, how's it going? I was just talking about your channel just before. About your video on Eberron. Nice to see you. So Jordan, yeah, Jordan has a really great channel. I often think of your channel as like a, whatchamacallit, a companion. Like, if they can't get it from me, there's probably a video from you about exactly what they were asking me to make a video about. So I quite often direct people back towards your channel. Holy moly! Is that what I think it is? Is that a $100 super chat? Are you kidding me? Good grief. Buh, buh, buh. Wow. What is knock? Is that like a I don't even know what just happened. Wow. No, not dollars. What is knock? Oh. Can somebody explain to me what's going on? You just blew my mind. Oh, it's like $12. That's still pretty damn good. Thank you. God, jeez. Somebody gives me a donation on like Nicaraguan money, it's gonna blow my mind. Pesos. Norwegian crowns. Krona. No, Krona would be like, mate, way less. Ah. Okay. Oh, I see. Thank you. Thank you for the crowns, for the Krona. The currency of my ancestral homeland. Ah, feeling the love. Just the love. I know. Keep the kitties in tuna. That did spook me. That freaked me out. The Vikings have gifted you. What do you know about the Warhammer universe? What, the Warhammer 40k universe? I'm more up to speed with Warhammer 40k. I'm a big fan of the lore of Warhammer 40k. I haven't played a lot of the. I've tried to get into wargaming, but I've never really had the opportunity. I've even bought miniatures for it at a time. I've even got some miniatures floating around somewhere, but I've never actually played a war game with Warhammer 40k stuff. Sad. If I did, though, it would definitely be Black Templars. Or maybe some Grey Knights. Black Templars and Grey Knights. What a wicked combination. I'd fight against some Tyranids. Definitely. Yeah, sorcerers are unnatural. They're supernatural. Like, I'm not kidding. They're mutants. They're the X-Men of D&D, essentially. Blood for the Blood God. Any thoughts on how far a death god would get without killing anyone directly? Think of a Blackwater Gospel situation where the god is there because he knows people will die not to kill them. Yeah, for sure. So you can have representation of a particular god of death showing up before a big battle or something like. Yes! Thanks, Jordan. You name it, man. You name it, and I'll be there collaborating with you. I actually had a thought. What if we paid somebody to translate some of our lore videos into Hindi? Capitalize on that that billion people market over there. We might even show up on T-Series. Because I write scripts for all my videos, so why not? So I'm already putting the work in. Might as well do it. If anybody out there speaks fluent Hindi, give me a call. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of. I've got Death Squad for Warhammer 40k, and I would like to actually pick up all the rest of them and run some games. Ooh, yeah. So yeah, I'd love to play like Only War, where you're essentially playing an Imperial Guard troop. Deathwatch is a bit hardcore because essentially you leap straight into absolute mayhem, where you throw everything against a squad of actual Space Marines. I mean, everybody wants to play Space Marines, but the actual reality of playing Space Marines is it's just mayhem, absolute carnage. The Inquisition, like Rogue Trader and those sort of games are really good for the more sort of roleplay stuff, because you actually get ships and you can go places, and there's a lot more intrigue and things like that can go down, and you can get into situations where a planet's been on the verge of being overrun by chaos or Tyranids or these gene stealers or something like that, and you can get out of there sometimes as well. But yeah, I really like those. I like the lore. I like role-playing in that environment. Yeah, I like the whole aspect of it. Skaven are kind of like were-rats. Yeah, I quite often include were-rats in campaigns. They're always sort of in the periphery, like they're underneath a lot of cities, sort of wandering around doing their stuff. Warpstone, yes. Well, it kind of almost already is, Danny. It's a trade language for a lot of different places where, like, they don't all speak a common language apart from English, and they learn it to speak with each other in a common language. So they don't even learn it to speak with English speakers, they learn it to speak amongst themselves. So it's kind of taking the place of French, or before that Latin was the trade language of the world. But English may be overtaken by it'll probably be turn into lots of different dialects with a sort of a common lingua franca, you could say, of English, because people from other countries that speak English add their own language into it and change it around to suit. So there's a more sort of, there's a common English which is a lot more sort of basic, that everybody speaks in the world. That's true, Mr. L. I am. What was that, Danny? I forgot to say this. When you recommended Warhammer 40k Orcs for D&D, you should... Whoa, whoa, whoa. Scrolling. I wish this window could be expanded. If there's anybody on Creator Insider over at YouTube watching, please expand the chat window to the entire screen. Or have it so I can pop it out. What was that? Something about Warhammer 40k. I forgot to say this. When you recommended Warhammer 40k Orcs for D&D, you should have recommended Warhammer Fantasy, everything about 40k, but already made it into fantasy. Sorry, I like to nitpick. That's fine. Mainly because I don't have a lot of personal experience with Warhammer Fantasy. Only the really early stuff from White Wolf and things, where I love their random roll tables for mutations and things like that, for being warped by chaos. So I don't really like talking about things that I don't have a huge understanding of. So I have a much better understanding of the Warhammer 40k universe, and that's where I grab my orcs from. Also, I really like the idea of them being an engineered race from a previously existing galactic campaign of destruction that have sort of spiraled out of control. Yeah, English is very strong as a trade language in science, and interestingly enough, most of the scientific phrases and lingo come from Greek and Latin, so, you know, it's just taken the place of what was already existing. Yeah, Jordan's lurking around. Oh, I can? Pop out chat. Thank you. That's much better. Oh, I'm a doofus. There we go. That's great. Thank you, Jordan. That's brilliant. Now I can see everything. Have I run or played in an Eberron campaign? Yes, I've played in the Eberron campaign. We spent almost the entire time in the city of Shan. So I'm going to be running an Eberron campaign coming up soon, actually at the start of next month. I'll be starting an Eberron campaign. Yeah, so they're a symbiotic... orcs in Warhammer 40k are a symbiotic race, which are a combination of algae, which is plant and fungus, on a sort of mammalian frame. But orcs are genderless. They reproduce by sporing and creating cysts in the ground that the orcs sort of grow from, which actually looks a lot like what happens in the production of the Uruk-hai in Lord of the Rings, where the goblins are making these crossbreeds and they sort of birth from these membranes covered in mud, which is bizarre, but there you go. That's kind of like what the orcs do in Warhammer 40k. HEMA, yeah, historical European martial arts, absolutely. I would brandish the sword that I have beside my desk here if it wasn't a guaranteed way of getting my channel demonetized. I'd be happy to show up on the Saturday morning breakfast show if I am up at a reasonable hour of the day. I can sort of spin my schedule around. If I know when I'm supposed to be up, I can be up at all hours of the morning to suit the American or Canadian timescale. So one of the main reasons why I'm not currently doing HEMA, because I have a friend who is in my role-playing group who does it. Well, he does LARPing mostly, but he also does proper HEMA sword fighting. I'm recovering from a tendon injury in my thumb, which has taken years to come right, and it's still not 100%. And obviously, a lot of wrist action with swords and things like that is not going to help. So I'd like to do it, but for the longest time, this has taken a very long time to recover, and it's from years and years of doing things in jobs. Like this time, it was using pipettes at work, where you can hear it crunching. So I've got scar tissue just over this area here, and when I pull my thumb back, there's a tendon which crosses over through that sort of tunnel of tendon, and it catches in there and it causes quite a painful blockage. Oh man, I'm a cat person, and not having a cat for the last year or two has been brutal. I actually go out on the street and I wait for cats to come out from houses, and I hang out with them on the side of the road like a freak. But I know all of these cats by name around the neighborhood now. Thanks, Nicholas. You've subscribbled. Mork and Orc. Sometimes we've got a mob of like I think there's 8 sheep at the orchard. There's a huge amount. There's like 15 chickens, an equal amount of ducks, some guinea fowl as well. So there's a lot more birds there because we have a organic orchard where the chickens just free range around, and they turn over soil and stuff like that, looking for grubs and mites and things. So they keep it's true, I'm a crazy cat lady. So they keep pests and stuff down organically by basically eating bugs and things that would crawl up the side of the trees. Adopted tabaxi. I am a well-known cat whisperer, so if you have a cat anywhere near me, pretty soon that cat will be on me and we'll be best buddies, and we'll be having a cat conversation. I know there's people that don't really like cats. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with dogs. I'm just more of a cat person because my lifestyle and personality fit better with cats. You know, I'm too laid back for a dog, really. I don't really go out and do stuff enough for dogs to be interested in me. Dogs like come over and hang out with me if they just want to like lean against my leg and sleep. That's the best thing. Maine Coons, yeah. You can always tell a Maine Coon by they've got that characteristic dark M on their forehead, which is quite interesting. I can always spot them in pictures and things. Wouldn't a dire kobold just be a dragonborn? Actually, there's a supplement coming out which has got a kobold thug, which is like a medium-sized kobold. It's called a swollbold, which I thought was brilliant. You got a cat trained like a dog. Also, there's the savannah cats as well, which are more sort of dog-like, and they also don't mind getting wet as well, so you can give them baths and showers and things, and they actually do go for walks with you on a lead. They look like a cat, but they're actually more like a serval. What is your favourite cat monster in D&D? Well, it have to be a Displacer Beast. Clearly, classic. They're so much fun. It's interesting, actually. Do you guys play Displacer Beasts as being just predatory animals, or do you give them personality and the ability to talk, for instance? I know they're not supposed to be able to talk in the monster manual, but I've noticed a lot of people have them do that. Is that right, Sinzu? Big cats, yeah. Well, I did a video on lions as a monster. If cats had thumbs. I had a cat called Tango, who was a polydactyl cat, so he had extra digits on his paws, and he was wicked. Like, you don't play with a string anywhere near your hand with Tango, because he would get you. He had extra functional claws, and he knew how to use them. And he was actually more likely to use his paws to grab things and pick them up than regular cats. So he was very much like a cat with thumbs. And he was a tomcat, so in that area that he lives, or lived, there are a lot of other little polydactyl cats that were born in that area, thanks to him. He used to wander around and sow his oats. Little terror. He had a great personality though, so normally tomcats are like quite standoffish. He wasn't. He was very much my buddy. He was a great cat. He was more like a Russian grey. So quite had a purr like a chainsaw. I feel like I should write D&D supplements. I go through a ton of homebrew rules and custom creatures that wind up trickling out into official books later on. Yeah, sounds like you should. I'm also planning on making videos which are aimed at DMs, either that they can run them as modules or insert ideas from them into their game. Because living out of town, obviously, I'm going to be a bit starved for D&D company and running face-to-face games. So I'm going to be sitting there planning out, making adventures and things like that. And I thought I'd share them with you. Ate a food like an apple, picked it up and ate it. That's cool. Yeah, 23 is a bit much. Like, you don't breed polydactyl cats with other polydactyl cats because it's it can end up with some very mutated paws. Like polydactyl cats where their digits are actually functional, fine with that. If you keep breeding it and they end up with non-functional paws, that's just cruel. So I disagree with that. A house cat as in pet or as in living space? So no, it's an actual house cat. It's a cat house. You're welcome, Mr. Werewolf Dude. Thank you for tuning in. Tressum with opposable thumbs would be terrible. Terrible, yeah, that's true. They'd basically be a furry imp. I like Tressum. I should do a video about them, actually, because I use them in my games occasionally, because we've been adventuring in Cormier lately. And it's interesting having creatures, like, do you play it so that creatures are regional in your Forgotten Realms? So do you have manticores that are more common in a particular area? Or like griffins that hang out around particular mountain peaks and not in others. Like if you've got places where it's good suitable area for griffins to roost, and then you have plains and stuff that would have wild horses, they would be naturally complementary. So you would have griffins predating on the wild horses, and the griffins wouldn't necessarily be used to the idea of eating non-horses. So an adventurer riding across the landscape on horses, that would be, the griffin would be interested in the horses, not necessarily eating the people. So that could be an interesting encounter, where the griffins are like, why are you attacking me? I'm just trying to eat this horse, you know. I did? Good. I'm glad I got the pronunciation right. Pronunciation? Justin, yep. I've had a lot more requests lately for specific personalities, both in monsters and in, like, it's interesting, I get requests for people who Dris Duerden has fought, for instance, or his enemies, but not requests for videos on him first. And it's interesting that people want me to make videos about characters that they can read novels about. like just read a book and you'll be able to get all the information that you need about Jarlaxle or yeah, Artemis and stuff. So I don't know. There's characters which I find more interesting, like Karsus and things, who are interesting, or Zastam, who are interesting from the Forgotten Realms perspective, because I like to. I'm trying to. My motivation is oriented around learning as much as I can about the Forgotten Realms, and for making forays into other settings and stuff as well. And of course, I pay more attention to people who want to know about specific monsters and things and environments. So when I talk about fiendish dragons coming up, I'll be talking about the environment that they live in, and that will encourage me to do more reading on Tartarus or Pandemonium and things, and then I'll be able to bring when I talk about the specific environment, I talk about locations in it and what sort of what it's like to describe it as a DM and what it's like to experience being there as a player. So that's sort of what I want to do. But certainly, you know, you never know what my mood's going to be, and if I'm struck by somebody's suggestion, I may actually make a video about it immediately. It's been known to happen. Cat house is something else entirely. Yeah. It's a low Drowic Vendur. Yeah, we can't rest here. This is Wyvern country. It's true. Oh boy, that rule about what was it? A feat that allows you to regain spell slots if you calculate odd numbers or something like that. Oh man, that rule needs to die in a fire. Honestly, it's terrible. It's the worst kind of like kowtowing to a rules lawyer, nerdy. It's like the worst. Ah, there we go. The Displacer Beast Wizard used wands of telekinesis in his tentacles that tossed players around the battlefield, ended up stealing a Dreamstone from the PCs. Nice. See, that's what I'm talking about. Also, there's a great picture in the 3.5 edition Draconomicon of a dragon. It's a green dragon sitting on top of a pile of treasure. It's got a wand in one hand and it's blasting fire like scorching ray or something like that at another player character who's in front of it. Well, an adventurer who's right in front of it getting immolated. And this thing's like, haha, you weren't expecting me to be a wizard, were you? But yeah, dragons definitely do use magic. They're magical creatures. They are sorcerers, right? The Hellfire Worm. No, there's a Pyroclastic Dragon, which is pretty close. Yeah, so it'll be, what is it? Pyroclastic, the Howler, Howling Dragon from Pandemonium. This is the Styx Dragon. Yeah. And of course the Chol Dragon. We're getting up to the 1 hour mark, everybody. Final questions, please. Well, you could have a non-evil Displacer Beast. Also in the Draconomicon, there was examples of dragons that differed from their stated alignment. For instance, there was a neutral gold dragon who disagreed with the constant fight for good and just said, well, look, you know, the universe exists in a balance. And so got more of a modern Canaan attitude towards things. And thought, well, you know, if good wins out, that's not necessarily the best for everybody. The Pink Dragon. Yep. I'm interested I'm interested what they eventually come out with, if they do come up with a Scion character class. I don't know what... I mean, I think maybe they've actually dithered too much. They've been working on psionics so long for 5th edition that maybe it's too late. That everybody basically just uses magic instead. What's the cutest cat in D&D in your opinion? Well, I mean, desert cats are really cute. So I think I would probably have a desert cat that just shows up. Because there's real animals in D&D as well, obviously. So I think desert cats are some of the cutest cats. Little ponies. By the way, does a chimera using a hydra as a base sound bad? Maybe add some basilisk if they're feeling particularly sadistic like Behir. Well, yeah. A winged Behir would be interesting. Of course, it's going to be pretty ponderous in the sky unless it like rolled its body up and hung onto it, so it like floated around and then it sort of uncurled and leapt on something and tore it to shreds. That would be a monster to see. Yeah, well, I played a Scion all the way through to epic levels in D&D, and they were very, very weak at low level, and then very, very strong at high level. So yeah, Tressums are very cute. A desert Tressum, oh, that would be gorgeous. Or like an owl Tressum. We have a very cute owl called a moorpork in New Zealand. I suggest you you Google what a moorpork looks like. They're cute. They're like this big, and they make a sound at night time. It's very characteristic of New Zealand. Is he? He's been making Scion for Unearthed Arcana for a very long time. He keeps playing around with rules like, yeah, Mike Mills. If you should definitely check out Mike Mills' Happy Fun Hour. I think it's one of the best things to come out of D&D Beyond the YouTube. Hanging out with Mike Mills. I'd love to catch one of his streams actually on Twitch. Moorpork, yeah. Sounds like a Pokemon, yeah, a little bit. Moorpork. Or is it Moorpork? Hang on. I better find out myself. No, you're right, it is. Went straight to Discworld. Ah, Google, you know me so well. Ankh Moorpork. No, I was right. It's M-O-R-E-P-O-R-K. The Moorpork. Also called the Ruru, or Tasmanian spotted owl. Small brown owl found throughout New Zealand and Tasmania. And they're very cute. Anywho, time for me to go and get back to work. Thank you very much for the wonderful donations, everybody. It's been fantastic today. Thank you very much. And thanks for Jordan for stopping by. And thank you for all of your questions and comments. It's been great. Hey, Grimhild. It's been great to hang out with you all. Mark, how's it going? Panther-esque primates from Madagascar. You mean the Fusa? Yeah, they're pretty cool. Slefner. Yeah, cockatrices could be a bit worse. Like, I don't think there's anything that just petrifies you straight away like it did in old school D&D. Like, you have to fail multiple saving throws. But, I mean, you can always bump up those DCs on those saving throws to make petrification truly terrifying. And getting paralyzed in the middle of combat is quite nasty as well. Well, you get restrained, essentially. Disabled. Thanks a lot, everyone. It's been great hanging out with you. I will catch you in the next live stream. That will be your Wednesday if you're in the States, my Thursday if you're in the in my neck of the woods. Same time. So I'll catch you then. And I'll also be on the Discord channel immediately after this, having a chat with everybody who wants to stop by and chat about whatever, where you'll actually be able to ask me questions and I can hear you, not just have to scroll through. Okay, catch you later.